Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Dharma Helper, and this is DH Reviews. This is my Gotham Season 1 predictions and expectations video. If you missed my other video, earlier this week I released an introduction to the channel video where I talked about the channel and the content you can expect, like the shows I'm going to review. I talked a little bit about Gotham and some other shows, so I'll put that video in the description or I'll annotate it here on the screen. But you should definitely go and check that out if you haven't already. With that said, in this video, I'm going to talk about the characters and the plot and some things that I'm anticipating out of Gotham for Season 1, as well as some things that I'm not sure will get in there on the show, but that I would love to see happen either in Season 1 or in future seasons. To start off with, let's talk about the most obvious character when you think about Gotham City and you think about Gotham, Bruce Wayne. In this particular series, Bruce Wayne is a kid because the series takes place just after Thomas and Martha Wayne, his parents, are murdered. And as that is the case, I'm not sure what to expect out of Bruce as a character, just because he's so young and he's not the philanthropist, playboy, or Batman, so there's not really much for him to do in this series. But then again, there are some things that maybe I'll talk about here in a little bit that maybe he could get into, like, for example, with Alfred. Alfred, if you don't know, is being played by the same actor who played Lestrade in Elementary on CBS, is going to be playing Alfred, and he's sort of a middle-aged war veteran character, and out of him, I'd expect to see maybe a mentor role or a teacher role for Bruce, and I'd like to see him sort of try and protect Bruce from the idea of going out and seeking vengeance, and maybe that sort of sparks Bruce into becoming a detective later on, or maybe later on in the series when he's a little bit older and a little bit more independent, he starts to learn how to fight, and he starts to learn how to solve all these different mysteries and things like that. But in terms of Alfred in the immediate future and leading into Season 1, I'd like to see Alfred, like I said, become a mentor and a teacher for Bruce and keep him away from that. But in terms of other characters for Alfred to interact with, being a war veteran, I think it would make the most sense for him to interact with Jim Gordon, the detective, who is going to be pretty much the main character of the show. I think both of them being war veterans and being very honorable and honest people in a city full of people who are dishonest, I think they can bond over that and share that connection and maybe start to form a friendship and work on the side independent of the police department to sort of solve the Wayne murders and to sort of battle that corruption. And like I said, maybe Alfred keeping Bruce sheltered from that is the catalyst that makes Bruce an interesting character for the show and for the series, and maybe that sort of sparks him into learning how to fight and learning how to be a detective and learning how to defend himself and learning all these basic skills that will compound and eventually lead him into being Batman. Speaking about Jim Gordon, like I said, he's going to be the main character for the series, and he's going to start off with investigating the Wayne murders and fighting the corruption in the police department and fighting the corruption in Gotham City. And I'd like to see a very naive Jim Gordon to start off with. Somebody who comes into the city, with rose-colored glasses almost. If you've ever seen Batman Year One, it's an animated Batman story about basically about the same thing, except Batman is in It's Batman's first year as a vigilante, and it's Jim Gordon enters the city, and he's very vigilant about staying away from the corruption, and all these different officers, and including his partner, which I'll get into in a minute, but all these different officers are very corrupt, and he's very vigilant about staying away from that, and he's very, there's only a certain way that he's going to do things by the book, and I'd sort of like to see that out of Gotham as a series and out of Jim as a character, but as the season goes on, by the end of the season, I think it would be really, really cool to see Jim sort of pushed to the limit and sort of challenged to do something that he wouldn't normally do in terms of legality and in terms of fighting the corruption. I think it's going to be interesting to see how long he can stay by the book and how and at what point and what sort of makes him realize that there's only certain ways you can get things done in Gotham City, and there's going to be a point where he's going to have to cross some kind of a line. Like I said, he has a partner by the name of, I think, Harvey Bullock, and Harvey's going to be played by one of my favorite actors, Donald Logue. If you've ever seen Vikings on the History Channel, or if you've seen the last season of Sons of Anarchy, where he played the Marshal Torek, Donald Logue is always a very interesting, a very cool actor and a very good actor to watch, in my opinion. And he's somebody I think who can bring a lot of weight to the role of Harvey, a sort of corrupt cop. And like I said, Jim Gordon's partner. And what I'd like to see out of him in terms of the first season is I'd like to see him sort of react with a bit of shock as to how clean and how by the book, like I said, by the book that Jim Gordon is. And I'd like to see him sort of act outside of the law, but not be as much of a villain as, say, the mob is. I'd like to see Harvey sort of, I guess if you've ever seen gang-related, the police on gang-related acted a lot outside of the law to get things done, but they were never really criminals per se. I'd like to see sort of that style of character from Harvey, where he's not really going to do anything that's wrong in his opinion. He's just going to do things to get things done. He may be a corrupt cop, but he's not a psychopath. That sort of character. And in terms of other characters to look out for, there's obviously being an origin story where it's going to follow the beginnings of a lot of the Rogues Gallery characters like Edward Nygma. And if you've ever been into Batman at all, you know that Edward Nygma would be the Riddler. And in this particular series, he is a criminologist for the Gotham Police Department. And what I'd like to see from him would be maybe something like a Dexter character where he's working for the police, but he's also working against the police and antagonizing them and leaving clues and riddles on crime scenes that he doesn't think anyone will solve because he's an egomaniac and he is testing himself and he's testing the people around him to solve these riddles and to basically challenge him mentally and on an intellectual level. And while I don't think we're gonna see the Riddler emerge as the Riddler that we know of today that fights Batman, I think it would be a waste of the series just to have him as this goody two-shoes criminologist. And I don't think that's what we're going to see. I think we're going to see somebody who is not a good person, but who is, testing the waters before he fully jumps into the Riddler role. Another character, and one that I'm very, very interested about, is Catwoman, Selena Kyle. I think that she should start off as kind of this pickpocket, street thief type character, but also I think they have a really cool opportunity here to introduce a strong female character ahead of, say, Marvel's Agent Carter, which no doubt is going to have a very strong female character in Agent Peggy Carter, which I'll talk about again in a later video. But for now, in terms of Selina Kyle, I think that because Gotham premieres so far ahead of Agent Carter, that they can get the jump on Marvel, and they should take an opportunity and do that, and introduce somebody that could perhaps fill the role of a vigilante in Gotham, because, like I said, there's no Batman. So you take out Batman from Gotham City, and it takes out a lot of the interest for a lot of viewers, because Batman is the most familiar character about Gotham City. But if you introduce Selina Kyle as a sort of street smart, pickpocket, cat burglar type character that maybe runs into Jim Gordon, and they start maybe an uneasy alliance, and she starts to battle up against maybe the mob while he's working on the police force and that type of corruption, that could be an interesting dynamic and a cool way to introduce the character. Poison Ivy is another character that's going to be in the series, but I really haven't seen anything in the trailers or the posters or the promotional material that I've seen. I haven't seen anything definitive from her, which isn't to say that I'm not interested in where her character goes. It's just that I don't have anything particularly to add here at this particular time. I'm very interested to see what she does in season 1 and where they take her character. And like I said about Selina and about the Riddler, that sort of carries over to what I think about Poison Ivy. I think it would be a waste to show her as a goody two-shoes, but that they should introduce her as a strong female character, and they should progress her in a way that makes sense, and that's not a complete origin story for the entire series. And that takes me to the plot of the show. And like I said, it's an origin story series, and I think they would make a mistake if they made the whole series about being an origin story. I think that if you have characters like this, it makes the most sense to progress them in a way that they become shades of the characters that we know today, not just, references and nods to the characters that we know today. So, for example, with Poison Ivy, it would make sense for me to see her sort of progress and start the early days of Poison Ivy and her powers and abilities and her criminal tendencies, rather than just see Poison Ivy before she was cool, if that makes sense. Or in terms of story, again, what I think of when I say Gotham City is the corruption, and if there's no rogues gallery, one thing that they can use as the main antagonists in a story are the corrupt cops, the corrupt officials in Gotham, and more to the point, the crime families and the organized crime in Gotham. And I think that's going to play a huge part in the story, at least for season 1, and hopefully moving forward into future seasons. Particularly for characters like Selina Kyle, who I think has a history with being a vigilante, but not so much in terms of the way that Batman is. She's still very selfish, but she battles people like Roman Sionis, who's the Black Mask, who's a very high-profile crime lord and very high in the hierarchy of Gotham's organized crime. And I think that, again, that would be something for her to do that would satisfy that Batman role, would be to battle the mob element. And I think the mob element of Gotham City should be a very key focus for Jim Gordon to go after, for Catwoman to go after, and for Harvey Bullock to be sort of involved in. And another character that I just remembered that's going to be in the series and that kind of ties in with Harvey and with the mob and with the criminal element is Oswald Cobblepot, who is high society Gotham, who is very rich, and who eventually becomes the Penguin. And what I anticipate out of him, for season 1 at least, is somebody who is building his empire and his reputation. And a good way to do that, I think, would be to introduce him as either Harvey's informant or Harvey's boss that kind of pays him and has him on a leash as a corrupt cop, or a mixture of the two where they have a very complicated relationship. If not Harvey, then certainly it should be clear that Oswald Cobblepot has his fingers in a lot of pies, and he's building his empire, and he's insulating himself using the corruption in Gotham City and using the police force in Gotham City to kind of take out his competition and assert himself as the Penguin and as somebody that should be taken seriously. So, like I said, that's basically the characters that I know about. I'm sure there are some that have been cast that I don't know about because I've been intentionally avoiding these things. But for now, that's my first impressions of everything that I know in terms of the characters and the story. So, some things that I'd like to see, some characters and some plot elements that I'd like to see. Let's start with characters. It being an origin story series, I think the character, to me, that makes the most sense to introduce here would be, if not in season 1, then definitely in season 2 or moving forward, would be Harley Quinn, who is, if you don't know, the sidekick to the Joker. But before she was the sidekick to the Joker, she was a psychologist at Arkham Asylum. And I think that having her as a character and as a window for the audience to introduce new characters and to talk about their psychology and their thought process and the reasons behind why they make the decisions that they make, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think that having her as another strong female character also makes a lot of sense. And if not in Arkham Asylum, then definitely in Blackgate Prison or in some capacity have Harley Quinn as a character. In terms of more mob characters, like I said, I think the organized crime element is going to make a very big appearance here, at least in season 1. So characters, like I said, like Roman Sionis, who can directly oppose Catwoman, who can directly oppose Jim Gordon, and who can directly oppose characters like the Penguin, and just overall everybody. Because Roman Sionis, the Black Mask, is a real sick dude, and he's a real big guy in the crime families and stuff like that, and he would be a really cool villain to explore in a series like Gotham. Somebody like, if you're going way, way, way outside the box, somebody like Scarface and the Ventriloquist. If you don't know who that is, the Ventriloquist basically is this guy that has this doll that is made up like a 1920s mobster. And the doll has magical properties or something like that, where it can talk, and it talks through him, and it kind of controls him. So it's this interesting character where he's sort of the puppet, and the dummy is sort of, Scarface is sort of controlling him. And if they want to kind of break away from that sort of gritty, Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan, very serious type scenario, that's a character that I think that they can use to maintain that mob storyline, but also step away and become independent and have their own identity as a show. Another character that I think of when I think of the corruption of Gotham City and the early days of Gotham City is obviously Harvey Dent. So having him in some capacity in the show makes a lot of sense for me to have that guy as an up and coming, idealistic, very much like Jim Gordon type character, battling the corruption and trying to bring Gotham City back into a place that's healthy and safe and heroic. One character that I don't want to see in the show, and this is going to be very strange to say, but I would not like to see the Joker ever in Gotham. I think that the Joker is a character that only makes sense when he has somebody like Batman opposing him. And to have no Batman means to me that you have to cut the Joker out, or at least cut the Joker as we know him out. So, unlike all the characters that I've talked about that I would like to see progress, if they decide to put the Joker into the series, I don't think it would make sense for him to progress so far as to become the Joker that we know. Now that being said, somebody like the Red Hood or a small-time guy or something like that, where he's very much a stark difference to the Joker and to that transformation, that I could see maybe working, but I would not like to see that to start off with here in season 1. Maybe something like season 2, or moving forward we can explore that, but I don't think that's going to make a lot of sense with Bruce Wayne being a kid and nobody really being able to stand up and oppose the Joker. Again, somebody who I think might make a little bit of sense in terms of going outside of the box could be somebody like Firefly, who, if you don't know who that is, he's basically an arsonist, and I think that would be cool, a cool way and an interesting storyline to kind of have along the side of the Wayne investigation, in terms of having Harvey and Jim investigate these arsons and seeing their different approaches to police work and to investigating and to what they're willing to do to get their guy. Yeah, I think that about covers it in terms of my expectations and my thoughts on Gotham for season 1. So, if you like the video, go ahead and leave a like. And if you're anticipating my Gotham season 1 reviews or my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter expectation videos, which will come out later in the week, go ahead and subscribe and you'll see those videos as they come out. Follow me on Twitter at @TheDHReviews, and I'll tweet out, during the shows, after the shows, and you can follow me for updates on the channel. If you have anything you want to add to the discussion, maybe something that I mentioned or didn't mention that you want to talk about, leave a comment in the comment section and we'll talk about that. And I want to thank you guys for watching. I look very much forward to reviewing Gotham with you guys, watching Gotham with you guys, Mondays, 8 p.m. on Fox, starting Monday, September 22nd. Mark that down on your calendars and we'll watch it together and we'll review it together and we'll talk about it together. Yeah, I think that's everything. Again, I want to thank you guys very much for everything that you've, all the support that you've shown so far, and I hope that more of you will come and we can build this channel into something that's impressive and cool. And that's all I've got for this video. So I've been Dharma Helper, and I'll see you in the next video.